Welcome to a deep dive, and today we're tackling a topic you, our listener, submitted one of the really profound concepts in theology, God's omniscience. Simply put, the idea that God is all-knowing.
Yeah, and we've gone through the notes and articles you sent. We're looking at its nature, its scope, what it implies. Our goal is really to unpack what all-knowing actually means in this context.
Try and pull out the core idea.
Exactly, the essential insights, and maybe, find some surprising angles on it.
And what struck me, and the material really brings this out, is that this isn't just like an abstract theological puzzle.
Right.
Understanding God's omniscience seems to touch the very core of how we exist. It offers comfort, guidance, but also a real sense of accountability.
It does. It's one of those concepts that can genuinely shift how you view the world, yourself, and, well, your relationship with God.
Okay, let's dive in then. At its most basic level, what does it mean, according to these sources, for God to be omniscient? What's the absolute core?
The core idea is knowledge that is perfect, complete, and infinite. A knowledge of all things.
Not just most things.
No, not just a vast amount, but literally all things.
All things. That feels huge. Does that go beyond just what's happening right now?
No, absolutely. The sources stress that this covers everything past, everything present, and everything future. But here's where it gets really interesting, and the sources point this out. It also includes knowledge of all possible outcomes, every potential scenario, every path not taken.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just knowing the movie that's playing, but knowing every possible movie that could have been made instead.
That's a pretty good analogy, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a quote in the material: God knows himself and all things actual and possible in one simple and eternal act.
One simple and eternal act.
And here's the key difference from us. God doesn't learn this knowledge. It's not acquired.
Right. We learn, we study, experience things, our knowledge grows, changes.
Exactly. For God, this knowledge isn't gained over time. It's inherent to his very nature. It's just who he is eternally. It wasn't accumulated, it just is.
That inherent, timeless quality. That's a huge distinction. Okay, so let's dig into the nature and the scope of this knowledge more. What makes it so different from, say, the smartest human mind?
Well, first, the sources describe it as perfect and comprehensive. Our knowledge is, limited. It's got gaps, errors, biases.
Definitely.
God's knowledge, quoting Job 37.16, is perfect in knowledge, no mistakes, no blind spots.
Perfect. That's hard to wrap your head around. And comprehensive. How comprehensive?
Down to the most minute detail imaginable. The sources point to Jesus in Matthew 10 saying, "Not even a sparrow falls without the Father knowing." And even the hairs on your head are all numbered. Think about that level of detail across everything that exists.
Numbering hairs. Okay, that's taking comprehensive to a very personal level.
It really is. And another thing is, it's immediate and eternal. God isn't like processing data sequentially. He knows it all simultaneously. One single eternal act of knowing, outside of time as we perceive it. Psalm 90 verse 2 speaks to his eternal nature. He sees all of history, past, present, future, all at once.
Seeing all time at once.
Yeah, that's mind-bending. And this covers literally everything. The sources keep hammering that all things point.
Repeatedly. You've got 1 John 3.2 is saying plainly, he knows everything. And Psalm 147.5 says, his understanding is beyond measure. There's just no limit.
Including the future. Isaiah 46 talks about God declaring the end from the beginning. How is that different from just, making an incredibly accurate prediction like weather forecasting years out?
It's fundamentally different. It's not prediction based on calculating odds or seeing trends. It's certain knowledge. Because he stands outside our timeline and is sovereign over it, he doesn't guess what might occur. He knows what will occur because he sees it.
Oh, okay.
That's why Matthew 6.8 can say, your Father knows what you need before you ask. He already sees the need and the request. Knowing our needs before we even say them, that leads right into the most intimate part of this, doesn't it? Knowing our thoughts, our heart.
Yeah, this is where it gets deeply personal, and maybe, for some people, a little unsettling. Psalm 139 gives this amazing picture.
Right, the one about sitting and rising.
Exactly. God knows when you sit, when you rise. He perceives your thoughts from afar. He's familiar with all your ways. Even before a word hits your tongue, he knows it completely.
Perceiving thoughts from afar. So basically no mental privacy. The sources mention that Hebrew word yada.
Yes, yada. It's used in Psalm 139, and it's not just intellectual data. It implies this deep, intimate, personal, almost experiential knowledge.
Okay.
And Hebrews 4.13 really drives it home, saying nothing in creation is hidden from his sight. Everything is naked and exposed before him.
Naked and exposed. Wow.
Yeah.
That leaves absolutely no room for hiding anything.
Pretty much.
And then there was that other fascinating bit, knowing all things possible. Not just what is or was or will be, but what could be under different circumstances.
Right. And this isn't just abstract. The material points to Jesus in Matthew 11 talking about Tyre and Sidon. He says if the miracles done elsewhere had happened there, they would have repented.
Just he knew what would have happened on a different path.
Exactly. It shows certain knowledge of counterfactuals, of alternative historical branches.
So he knows every potential timeline, every possible choice, and its outcome.
That seems to be the implication. And the sources suggest this isn't just like divine trivia. This knowledge of possibilities is crucial for his perfect governance. He knows every potential result of every potential action, which allows him to make perfectly wise decisions for his ultimate purposes.
That makes sense. If you know every variable, you can make the perfect choice. Okay, so we've got comprehensive, intimate. Let's tie this to the key characteristics of the sources list. Infinite, perfect, outside time, intimate, personal, and judgmental.
Yeah, those are definitely key summaries. Infinite, like we said, means boundless, no limits, which offers huge comfort, right? Because it means no situation you're in is too complicated for God to understand or too hidden for him to sue.
Right. No matter how lost I feel, he gets it completely.
Exactly. And perfect means utterly flawless, accurate. Job 37.16 again. This isn't just theoretical. It means his view is totally reliable, which is why the sources link this to him being the ultimate just judge.
Ah, okay. Because he has all the facts.
All the facts. Unlike human judges working with limited evidence, God knows everything, the outward actions and the inward thoughts and motives. Romans 2.2 speaks to his righteous judgment.
So only judgment based on perfect knowledge can be truly just. Makes sense.
Precisely. And then outside time, as we discussed, means he sees the whole sweep of history, not just moment by moment. This perspective underpins his plans and promises. They're guaranteed because he sees the end from the beginning, as Isaiah 6.2 says.
It's powerful. His promises aren't just hopes, they're reality from his viewpoint.
Exactly. And the intimate and personal aspect, that yada knowledge, means he knows you personally, your deepest needs, fears, joys, even before you can articulate them. In Matthew 6.8, 1 John 3.20, it's not just knowing about you, it's knowing you.
That's a crucial difference, knowing about versus knowing you. Okay, whenever you talk about something this absolute, theological challenges pop up. The sources tackle a few. What about sin? Does God's perfect knowledge include knowing about, well, all the bad stuff?
Yes, the sources are very clear on this. God is perfectly aware of all sin, every form throughout all history, in every heart.
But knowing about it doesn't mean he approves or that he's somehow tainted by it.
Absolutely not. The analogy used in the material is like pure light shining into darkness. The light reveals the darkness, exposes it, but isn't diminished or dirtied by it. Think Habakkuk 1.13, God's eyes being too pure to look on evil in the sense of approving it. His holiness defines sin as sin.
Okay, that helps. Now the big one, omniscience and free will. This comes up all the time. If God already knows exactly what I'm going to choose tomorrow, how am I actually free to choose? Isn't it already determined?
Yeah, this is a classic point of tension. The sources handle it by emphasizing that God's knowledge isn't causative. Knowing what you will freely choose doesn't force you to choose it.
Oh, how does that work?
Think about it like this. If you recorded a live event and watched the recording later, you'd know exactly what everyone was going to do before they did it on the screen.
Right.
But your knowing didn't cause them to do it when it happened live. God's foreknowledge is like that, but perfect and comprehensive. Perfect observation, not manipulation.
So he sees the choice we will make freely, without compelling that choice.
That's the idea. Acts 2.23 is a key text here.
Right.
It says Jesus was delivered up according to God's definite plan and foreknowledge, yet it holds the people who crucified him responsible for their actions. His knowledge didn't erase their free, though wicked, choice.
That takes some serious thought, that
Yeah.
distinction between knowing and causing. Okay, one more challenge mentioned. Does knowing all the suffering, the pain, the evil, make God sort of emotionally distant, indifferent?
The sources argue strongly against that. They actually suggest his perfect knowledge deepens his compassion. It doesn't numb him. He doesn't just know that suffering exists. He knows its reality, its texture, its depth, perfectly.
And the example used is Jesus at Lazarus' tomb.
Exactly, John 11:35. Jesus knew with absolute certainty he was about to raise Lazarus. He knew the happy ending was moments away.
Right.
Yet, seeing Mary and the others grieving, he was deeply moved and he wept. His perfect knowledge didn't cancel out his profound compassion in that moment. His knowledge informs his empathy.
That's a really powerful image. Okay, so let's bring this back to you, the listener. If God has this perfect, infinite, intimate knowledge, what does that mean for us practically? How should it change how we live?
Well, the sources highlight several key implications. First, trust. Big one. Because God's knowledge is perfect and his understanding is infinite, you can trust his guidance completely. Even when things seem confusing or make no sense from our limited viewpoint, Proverbs 3.56, right? Lean not on your own understanding.
So I can trust his path,
Yeah.
even when I can't see the map clearly.
Exactly. And because he sees the whole picture, Romans 8.28 can promise that he works all things, even the hard things, together for good for those who love him. His plan is based on total information.
Okay, trust. What's next?
Accountability. Knowing God sees everything, actions, words, secret thoughts, motives. Hebrews 4.13, again, Matthew 12.37, about accounting for every careless word. That brings a deep sense of accountability.
Which honestly sounds a bit intimidating.
It can feel that way, but the sources also frame it as purifying. It pushes us toward integrity, not just on the outside, but inwardly. It encourages honesty with ourselves and quick confession because, well, there's no point hiding anything.
Right, shifts it from fear to maybe freedom through honesty.
That's a good way to put it. Third, comfort. This is maybe the most encouraging part. God knows you intimately. Your needs, fears, struggles, anxieties. He knows them even better than you do. Remember Matthew 6.8. He knows what you need before you ask.
And that verse in 1 John.
Yes. 1 John 3.20. Even when our own heart condemns us because we know our own failures so well, God is greater than our heart, and he knows everything.
He knows the whole context.
He knows the full picture, including his grace, his forgiveness, his plans for restoration. That provides immense comfort.
To be fully known, flaws and all, and still loved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's huge comfort. What about confidence?
His omniscience grounds our confidence in his promises because he foresees every obstacle, every possibility. His ultimate purposes will be accomplished. Isaiah 46.9 again. Romans 8.29-30, linking his foreknowledge to predestination and eventual glory. It shows his plan is certain because it's founded on perfect knowledge.
Nothing can truly surprise him or derail his ultimate plan.
Exactly. And finally, guidance. We can seek his guidance confidently. He has perfect knowledge of our specific situations, the options ahead, the outcomes of each choice. James 1.5 encourages us to ask for wisdom, and his wisdom is perfectly informed.
Trust, accountability, comfort, confidence, guidance. Those seem like really foundational implications. So knowing all this, how should we actually live differently? What are the practical responses?
The sources suggest a few things. First, cultivating reverence and awe. Just grasping the sheer scale and intimacy of God's knowledge should inspire a healthy fear, not terror, but profound respect, wonder. Like Psalm 139.6 says, "Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high. I cannot attain it."
A right sense of humility before God.
Absolutely. Second, pursuing authenticity. Since hiding is futile, it actually frees us up to be totally honest with God and with ourselves. That prayer at the end of Psalm 139 becomes natural. "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxious thoughts."
See if there's any offensive way in me and lead me in the way everlasting.
Right?
It encourages transparency.
Precisely. Third, embracing God's sovereignty. His perfect knowledge is what enables him to work all things, the good, the bad, the confusing, for his glory and our good, as Ephesians 1.11 suggests. Nothing takes him by surprise. It's all within his scope.
Finding peace because nothing is truly random or unforeseen by him.
Exactly. Which leads to the fourth point. Find peace in uncertainty. Our lives are full of unknowns, right? We don't know what tomorrow brings, but we can rest in the one who does know it all perfectly. Isaiah 55.8-9, his thoughts are higher. His knowledge provides stability when our future looks blurry.
We don't need to know everything if he does.
That's the core of it.
Yeah.
And finally, encourage others. Use this understanding to remind people who are struggling that God sees their situation fully, knows their pain intimately, and cares perfectly. His knowledge isn't cold. It's the basis of his compassionate action.
The sources definitely back this up with a lot of scripture, Old and New Testament.
They really did. Old Testament, you had 1 Samuel calling him a God of knowledge, all of Psalm 139, Psalm 147 on numbering stars and his understanding being beyond measure. Job 37 on his perfection, Isaiah 55.
And the New Testament builds right on that.
Yeah, Romans 11, marveling at the depth of the knowledge of God. Hebrews 4, saying nothing is hidden. 1 John 3, reminding us he knows everything, even when our hearts condemn us.
Plus the prophetic examples, Isaiah foretelling the end, Daniel revealing future events, Acts mentioning God's foreknowledge in the crucifixion.
And crucially, Jesus himself demonstrated this. Knowing Nathanael under the fig tree, knowing the Samaritan woman's life story, Peter's affirmation, Lord, you know everything, Jesus knowing the scribe's inner thoughts, these really show divinity.
Okay, so we've taken a pretty deep dive into God's omniscience, drawing from the material you sent in.
Yeah, we've seen his knowledge presented as perfect, infinite, timeless, incredibly personal, and just completely comprehensive, covering every detail, past, present, future, all possibilities, even our deepest thoughts and intentions.
And the takeaway isn't just, wow, that's a big concept. It really shapes our ability to trust, our sense of accountability, where we find comfort, our confidence in God's plans, and how we seek guidance day to day.
Definitely. The sources consistently suggest that really engaging with God's omniscience shouldn't just be an intellectual exercise. It should lead towards worship, reverence, a kind of surrender, finding peace and hope grounded in his perfect knowledge and care.
So here's maybe a final thought for you to take away from this deep dive. If God knows you absolutely, completely, every strength, every weakness, every hidden thought, and the sources also stress his perfect love and care alongside that knowledge, how does that change the way you look at your own life, maybe your biggest struggles, or even just how you face tomorrow?